What is up there, workforce? Chris here with Work to Game, and this is going to be a super fast, just quick paced, all the things. We're going to talk about translations for World of Warcraft refugees. I'm assuming at this point that you're somebody who is well experienced in WoW, so you know DPS and tanking and all these basic things, and your only question is how to just speak the local language. There's all these terms that get thrown around, and they probably mean something in WoW, and you just kind of need to know what is what. So we're going to start right at the top. I am going through the new player guide by desibear over on Reddit, link in the description below. So let's dive in. Main story quest. This is going to be the equivalent of like your battle campaign. It starts all the way from level 1. It's incredibly important that you follow this all the way through because so much content is locked behind it. Just imagine if all your dungeons, remember the old attunements? Everything is attuned to this. Side quests. This is all the quests that are not main story quests. Leave quests. This is basically repeatable dailies for the purpose of experience for your gatherers, crafters, battles. Guild Hest. These are like little half dungeons. They're just kind of a nice way to like introduce yourself to various concepts, really heavily geared at new players, but they have lots of bonus experience, especially that first time through. Hall of the Novice. This is literally the same as like when you start that level 100 trial character, but it's geared at level 15 because Final Fantasy put it in much earlier, and it teaches you just basic things about how to play your class, especially in the confines of what you'll be doing in group play. Content unlock quests. It's a normal side quest, but it's got a little plus sign next to it. The plus sign means it unlocks something. This could be as little as like an emote or a minion, or it could be a dungeon attunement that's not tied behind MSQ. Fates are basically the little open world. Picture them like world quests. They're little open world battles, and you join in, you do a task, and it forces a level sync, because keep in mind, level sync in this game, you opt in. It's not something that happens through like a world sync type system. Triple Triad, it's most similar to the battle pet system. There's trainers out in the world, there's cards to collect, has a cool little battle hall, weekly tournaments, very, very neat. Repeatable quests, these are your literal beast tribes. Usually there's other repeatable quests throughout the game, usually tied behind a weekly or a daily reset. Your beast tribes are just like a reputation grind. You grind it up, usually takes about the same amount of time. Both games are about 2 weeks, give or take, and then you usually get a mount available to you. In progress quest, this just means, think about like when it has the little question mark versus the exclamation point. So this has the exclamation point and then a little triangle thing that says like, hey, you're not done here, but this is the right place. If it has a red icon around it, that just means that you don't meet the current things. So maybe you're not high enough level, maybe you're not on the right type of class, etc. Gil is gold. Allegan tomestones. So tomestones is our continually updating gear. It's what we buy things with. Picture a currency like justice or valor or whatever, and you use it to buy gear. There's a weekly cap that gets lifted, and then eventually it gets moved down to the next tier, and then we get a new type of tome, and it rotates, and so on. Company seals. Grand companies are like a guild, but with you and NPCs, and you can progress through it, and those seals can be used to buy things from their vendors. MGP is the Manorville Gold Saucer Points, and this is used, it's basically like their Dark Moon Fair, and so it's up all the time, and you can do these daily and weekly different drawings and things like that, and through the mini games you can buy things with these MGP things. There's even crossover events like the recent 15 crossover that cost MGP, and then Gather and Crafter scripts. This is the in-game currency for gatherers and crafters. Gathering and crafting is so much deeper than in WoW. Beastman currency, this is basically tokens that are used to buy things from the different turn-ins. So imagine if at the end of grinding up the rep with whatever trolls or whatever, instead of buying it with gold, you would buy it with these tokens that you get kind of one per day, so that you've had to do dailies if you want to keep buying things. Wolf marks is your PvP currency. Ventures are basically coins that send your retainers out on little ventures. So think about your table, the mission table. So it's a mission table currency. PST, Police and Tell, DOW, DOM, Disciples of War and Magic. This has to do with like gearing a lot of times. DOH, DOL, Disciples of Hand and Land. That's your crafters and gatherers. FC is a free company, so that's your guild. LS is a link shell. That's like a chat. Remember like the /end game back in the day? So you can join these. There's even cross-world link shells that'll help you talk with friends who may be playing guilds on different servers on your data center. So servers are clustered within data centers. Duty Finder is your dungeon finder. Limit Break is basically a party-wide kind of ultimate ability that you guys build up, and then one person executes it on behalf of the party. And what your Limit Break does when you cast it has to do with what role you are. So like ranged DPS has different limit break than the tank, for example. BIS is still best in slot. LOS is still line of sight. TP, MP, these are your mana points and tactical points. This is all theoretically changing with Shadowbringers, but I'm sure you're familiar with HP and then there being a currency towards doing your actions. Enmity is just the common term for threat, hate, etc. Your eye level is still the same thing, but with gearing, it's a lot simpler. Typically, eye level wins out as long as you're comparing like tank gear to tank gear. GCD and OGCD, the global cooldown's a lot longer in this game, and so you end up focusing a lot on your global cooldown abilities, and then you're off the global cooldown abilities, which is what makes the content interesting as you get into higher level. If it was just the paces as you level, this game would be way too slow. AoE is still area of effect. You still have hots and dots. You don't necessarily have the same kind of class structure. And then you have tanks are tanks, healers are healers. You have melee DPS. Then you have ranged physical and ranged magic. And so that kind of is a little bit of a breakdown there. It has to do with the way gear is shared usually. As you level up, the first and foremost focus you need to do is your MSQ. Stay on your MSQ. Get your max character to the cap. The way experience works is if you have a higher class, it does give a bonus experience to lower level classes. You do still have rested experience, but there's no form of like heirloom gear per se. There's an item that gives you experience locked behind Hall of the Novice, and then occasionally there's other items, like if you pre-order Shadowbringers, you get an earring and stuff like that. So there are items throughout the game that kind of help with experience, and a lot of times they have a cap associated with them. But there's no true heirloom system per se, where gear, like you have a weapon that scales with you and gets stronger and stronger. Your daily roulettes, exactly the same, doing your daily. You also have like weekly lockouts on your raids and things like that. Your raids are going to be 8 mans and 24 mans. The 24 mans is really made up of 3 8s. So the content is designed appropriately. You'll get the hang of it. Make sure that you're doing level appropriate side quests, that you're doing your challenge and hunting logs. Your challenge log is a weekly reset log that encourages you to do a bunch of different stuff so that you can get rewards for it. You get the reward on whatever class you finish the thing on, because keep in mind in this game, there are no alts. You do everything on one class, on one character. So if I want my warrior to get the experience for completing 3 dungeons within a given week, I can do my first 2 dungeons on my Dark Knight, then move over to my warrior. And since my warrior completed the 3rd, it'll get the experience. Keep that in mind if you have capped classes, because if it has experience, you don't get any bonus gil or anything for doing it on a capped class. So go ahead and do whatever the last of whatever you're doing on a lower level class if possible. Palace of the Dead and Heaven on High are what's called Deep Dungeon. It's an alternate progression system that lets you play kind of like an arcade style game where you start at level 1, you work your way up, and if you die, you start over. It's a great way to get experience, because when you finish, you get experience. It's one of the fastest ways to level up alts in this game. Fate grinding used to be a thing. Leave quest used to be a big thing, but really people mostly do Deep Dungeon right now for leveling, and your roulettes for leveling that up. For your crafters and gatherers, your Grand Company actually has like daily turn-ins that you could do for them that are really, really good. Adventure Squadrons. So Squadrons picks up where Retainers and Chocobos left off. Chocobos are your out in the world kind of pet that'll fight with you after a certain point. I think it's like level 30. And then your squadron basically they can go run dungeons with you, but you can't swap party members. It's either all with NPCs or all with players. And then they also can be sent out on missions, just like a mission table. They cause Grand Company seals to interact with. So you definitely want to do that. There's all sorts of different experience scrolls and stuff that you get through them. So you want to kind of be interacting with your squadron. That's a very good thing. With gearing up, there's not a lot of stat priority, and like it kind of takes care of itself. And where stat priority comes in is in choosing materia. Materia is kind of like jewel crafting and enchanting put together, except there's no profession to do it. Everybody could meld if they have crafters for that right piece of gear high enough, but there's an NPC that'll do it for you for a very small fee. And then you can pull that materia out for free, but there's a percentage failure after you get to materia of a certain level. And so which materia you put in is going to be based on your stat priority, but there's no random eye level. There's no random, oh, I got a green that rolled the wrong thing. Gear is what gear is, and that's the end of it. There is kind of the same basic levels where you have white gear, green gear, blue gear. You have pink gear, which is ethereal. It's like dungeon quality. I don't know. Purple is basically reserved for like your relics. Relics are basically their change for an AP grind, but instead of there being anything random to it, it's just an alternate progression for, that's not what AP stands for your gearing. And so you just basically push through the gear at an alternate rate. It never really becomes like best in slot historically, but it's a neat way for like non-savage extreme ultimate, which are the terms for like heroics and mythics. It's just a way for them to kind of have access to some really cool gear. And actually this last round of expansion, you could get armor and weapons that way. So Very, very cool. That's really it. If you're jumping into the game for the very first time, there are no racials or anything, so pick whatever race you want. They can't really do racials because you're playing all the classes on one character, so I don't see them ever adding those. Which class you start with determines which of the 3 cities you start with, but they all merge fairly quickly, so no need to kind of worry about that. Just get in there and do it. Enjoy the main story. It's a lot of cutscenes. There is a story skip that you can go out to the website and you can purchase the ability to like power boost a class or jump past the story. But otherwise you've just got a lot of grinding in front of you. There is no WoW token or anything, so like you're gonna have to do it. Like anything you spend has to be real money. There's no way to like earn currency in game at this time. I wouldn't be shocked to see a guild token pop in the next couple of years, but as of this recording, not in there. So that is about it. I feel like I just blasted through a bunch of stuff. This is really just meant to be where we catch 1 or 2 of those things that WoW refugees are just like, okay, I was an expert in this game. I raid all the time, and I just don't know what is going on. There is no M+. PvP is very different. It's very heavily based around the season as far as the queue times. When a new season drops and there's something cool to get from it or whatever, there will be real short queue times, and then they will quickly creep right back up to like 30 minutes or more. So if you're looking for the WoW experience from PvP, it's not going to be here. I love the PvP here. I think it's really fun, but it's just not the same. And so that's about it. The graphics are a lot different. There's no add-ons because they're against terms of service. There is ACT, which is the DPS add-on. It's your parser, but don't talk about it in game and be like, oh, I have a parser and you're crap, because that is a bannable offense. They don't always ban it, but like don't play with it. Don't mess with fire. Community loves their story, so if you don't like story, that's fine, but don't go in and just bash story. But otherwise, it might be the most friendly community I've ever been around in any MMO ever. And maybe as we get bigger, it'll get more toxic. You know, if we try and put our heads together, we can do it. But as of now, it's an incredibly positive community. And outside of the occasional toxic experience, which is usually tied to like day 1 progression or something like that, where you're in with a pug trying to clear a trial for the first time, that's the 8-man content. And they're like, oh, I can't believe we wiped on this thing that nobody's ever seen before. But usually it's totally fine. So hopefully this guide helps. Let me know if you have any others or questions or anything like that down below. We can run another translation guide. This was just a chance to run through. I've done some new player guides lately, and I thought just make quick translation for you guys. I feel like it's already running long. So my name is Chris with Work2Game. Have a fantastic day, and I'll see you next time.
What's going on, Workforce? Chuck here. It's been a good long month, and I just wanted to say thank you so much for hitting that subscribe button. I just wanted to invite my friend Terry, the T-Rex from Texas, out here. Howdy, y'all. How's it going? This is a really fun end screen video. We should have written a script, right, Chuck? Oh, I agree totally. In fact, I think both our voices sound exactly the same. What are we to do? I don't know. I think we need to get a better voice actor. Yes, I agree. Which one of us is talking? Ah. They're still here. What are we gonna do? I guess we're gonna stop and record.